So hello, everyone. It is our published start time, and welcome to a SMAC virtual reception that shares the work of Justin Beck of Hutchinson, Minnesota. We are so pleased to have Justin exhibiting in our gallery space. His exhibit is open until February 23rd. So if you're able to travel to Marshall, our address at the gallery is 509 West Main Street in Marshall, and we'd love to see you there. I'm Nicole DeBoer. I am the Executive Director of the Southwest Minnesota Arts Council. We are a 18-county service agency that supports the arts. We receive funding through different methods. The state legislature is one of them. We have state funding in two forms, in general fund form, as well as in the legacy fund. We also receive monies mainly for our artist grants from the McKnight Foundation. We're grateful to them. We also receive some money from US Bank Foundation in order to fund certain kinds of individual artist grants. And then we also receive monies from people just like you that maybe want to give back to the arts. And all of our donations go into funding more grants. So we don't hold those back for donations, always go toward grants and grants funding of artists and arts organizations. So that's a little bit about SMAC, but we're really here to celebrate Justin Beck. Justin has been in our gallery since early January. We generally have gallery shows that last 6 to 7 weeks. Our gallery is reserved by invitation only to people who have received a grant from the Southwest Minnesota Arts Council. And Justin received a grant from us. He's a recipient of an individual artist grant in 2022 that was specifically requesting supplies, framing to do for this exhibit. So this exhibit is a direct outcome of the monies that were awarded to Justin. And so I'm going to kick off. Here's how our little evening time together is going to go. I'm going to kick off and read to you Justin's bio, and then I will read to you the artist statement that covers his exhibit, which is called Eulogies. And so I'll do a little bit of reading for you. And then we're going to have Crystal, who's on the call, and I'm grateful for all her work. She takes photos and video of the gallery and then creates and edits those together. So hopefully she has permission. She is our co-host, so she can go ahead and roll the video after I read the bio and the artist statement. And then after that, after you see the whole exhibit, then we will open it up for Justin to say hello to all of you. And then you can ask questions, and it can be a very casual conversation. No one has to pre-submit questions or anything like that. We'll just take it as it comes. So with that, I am happy to share a little bit of information about Justin Beck. These are in his words, by the way. I began my photography venture in 2016. I was initially interested in traditional landscape photography, but in traveling the back roads in the small towns of Minnesota, I discovered a new aesthetic of rural life that felt like home. I wanted to somehow convey those feelings through my photographs. I also discovered great American photographers like David Plowden, Stephen Shore, and Walker Evans. These works solidified my dedication to the craft and helped to inspire and show me a path to the work I knew I needed to make. I am a passionate advocate for rural communities, and I spend a great deal of time exploring small towns, which are often overlooked by most. I want my work to show people how great the cultural landscape of rural America truly is. To borrow a phrase from David Plowden, I am just trying to stay one step ahead of the wrecking ball. I currently live and work in my hometown of Hutchinson, Minnesota. And now I will share what Justin has provided as his artist statement of this exhibit, which is titled Eulogies. My work documents the rapidly changing face of rural America and examines how we shape our environments and communities. My primary interest is exploring rural places and studying the human influence on the landscapes that surround us. I feel a deep sense of belonging in these locations, which helps inform my photographic style. I work primarily in black and white to give the audience a sense of displacement from reality and give the image a timeless look. The work offers audiences an escape from the speed of modern life to contemplate and inspire future possibilities for our rural landscapes and communities. This set of 20 images is a study on the decay of structures in rural Minnesota and depicts their unique personalities. It is a photographic eulogy for a bygone era I would describe as the American dream. Much of our modern architecture is monotonous, repetitive, and without character. This series of photos highlights an unmistakable identity that speaks purely to rural Minnesota. I hope to encourage and inspire audiences to be introspective about future possibilities for our landscape and rural communities. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Crystal to share the video of this exhibit in the gallery as it is hung this week, today. So lovely. Justin, why don't you jump in and share a little bit about yourself to anyone who might be listening to this later on that doesn't know about you and your work? And then we can open up the floor for questions and answers and comments.
Sure, sounds good. I got blurry on the camera, I guess. I don't know how that happened, but I'm Justin. I'm the artist exhibiting at the SMAC Gallery. Super grateful for the opportunity, obviously. SMAC's work is everything they do is awesome, and very grateful to be able to receive a grant to print this work and have it shown all over the state. Really have been as far north as Brainerd and down in Marshall, and next will be Jackson in July. So it's been super good. Kind of some background about me, I guess. I got into photography in, I don't know, around 2016 or so. And I kind of wanted to do like traditional landscape photography, but that didn't really pan out because Minnesota is not exactly known for grand vistas. There's pockets of them here and there, but not in our area, I guess. And I just kind of fell in love with the landscape and documenting these out of the way places, and I just really enjoy exploring and finding new locations and seeing what's out there, and in many cases meeting people who have more history to share about places or things like that. Most of the work, most of the print, they're all inkjet prints that were made in a lab, but most of the work is shot on film. A couple of them are digital just because the film shots exist, but they either I missed focus or there was some technical issue with the film, so I had to use the digital version. But they're all square format, shot on a Rolleiflex camera. You can actually see Michael's picture in Zoom. He has a similar camera. It's a higher end model than what I have, but same kind of camera is what I use. Yeah, I guess, and to talk briefly about why I chose the name Eulogies, it's just kind of I'm trying to honor, like, what is a eulogy? It's honoring somebody who's passed away, trying to show the goodness of them, and I think that's kind of what this work is doing, is it's showing the goodness of these places and kind of giving them their last hurrah before they give up the ghost. I'm trying to think if there's anything in this show in particular that's, if any of these buildings are now gone. I know the Stoughton elevator is partially demolished. The rest of it will probably be coming down sometime soon. It might already be down for all I know. I haven't been over there in a couple of years. But yeah, it's kind of sad because I like to revisit locations a lot, and you find that they've been torn down, or in fact, there was one just recently. I was just in Marietta, Minnesota, which is in super western Lackaparle County, kind of on the South Dakota border. There was an old theater building and it had a cool sign on it that said Orpheum, and that building is now gone. It's just a patch of dirt. So yeah, that's kind of it in a nutshell. Happy to answer questions or entertain anything anybody wants to talk about. Robin's got to speak up. He came on the call. Come on now.
Yeah, we welcome you to unmute and ask Justin whatever questions you would like. Probably, maybe we could keep it to about his artwork, but
Sure.
What are you doing tomorrow? Yeah.
Working.
Yeah. Yeah, probably the same. Yeah, I tried to get in and it kept telling me that it was an old number. So I don't know why it was doing that, but I finally got in, so that was good. I'm like, God, I gotta get there. Really nice work, Justin. I think, and the video was well done and a nice space. So my hat's off to everyone there. Really, really nice. In fact, I mean, I've seen your work, and it was nice looking at it today because there's a lot of things I think I missed, and maybe I just glanced over them before, but I really like some of those images. They're quite nice. And yeah, I don't know. I was, as the video was going on, I was wondering if you had shot that in film, since it was
Yeah.
all 2.25 looking format. Did you crop those in when you did the digital versions, or did you mask that when you shot them?
They're cropped. Everything
Uh-huh.
I do that's square is just cropped from native. On
Mhm.
at the time I was shooting a Fuji X100F, now I have a Fuji X-T3. But yeah, I just crop because I don't ever print. That's about as 16 by 20 is probably as large as I'd ever want to print, although sometimes I feel like I could print larger, but I don't know. I kind of am in the Robert Adams camp of a smaller print tends to draw the person in a little bit more. It's more intimate feeling. You want to see the detail more. Whereas you see a huge print on the wall, you're kind of overtaken by the fact that there's a huge print on the wall. It's the same reason why I've decided to frame in white, is because when you walk into a gallery space and you see 20 black squares on the wall, your brain is stuck on 20 black squares on the wall. It's not necessarily looking at the work, at the photograph. My cat's destroying a cord down there. It's fine. But yeah, I appreciate the comments too. It's nice to hear from you because you got way more clout in the photo world than I do. So,
No, I think we all do fairly well.
sure.
How long were you working on that project? I realize it's still going on, but how long have you been working on that?
Uh, Basically when COVID started is when I really kind of put the rubber down or put the pedal down, whatever the term is. Because I had all this time and I figured, well, me driving around in my car, it's probably not gonna get me sick or get anyone else sick. So I thought I'll just hit the road and go hit these little towns and out of the way spots. And that's really when it started. And that's when my kind of idea behind it began to develop too, because before I was just like, and this was at a time too when I was using Instagram very heavily and I was very influenced by what other people were doing on Instagram and that kind of abandoned aesthetic. I'm like, oh, I gotta go find all, and I was more into that back then. Now I'm not so much, just because I've had a few interesting experiences with property owners who are not keen on people walking on their yard. And it's just dangerous. Like, I mean, anybody that's been at an old farm site knows, there's old barbed wire out there, there's uncapped wells, there's all kinds of stuff and I just don't like to risk that or make anyone mad. So I tend to stick now to more of the small town kind of work. And if something is, right by the road or if it's highly visible, I'll stop and take a shot, but I'm not going up any quarter-mile long driveways unless it's a once in a lifetime thing. But yeah, that's kind of when that started, was pandemic, and then it just kind of continued and was honed in more, I guess.
Justin,
Trying
do
to
you
fix my
think
blurry
you'll,
video, but
do you think you'll continue this series or this kind of continuing to shoot eulogies? Or do you have something different and new in mind?
yes, yes to both of those.
Sure.
I think this kind of work will continue just because it's like something I feel called to do. It's interesting you bring that up because I've often thought about that, like, and I kind of want to close the book on particular aspects of this show and like how the work is portrayed. It's funny because like Robin's work, who's on the call right now, he does a lot of shooting. You live in Chicago, right? Or Chicago area?
Chicago suburbs, yeah.
Sure. And he does a lot of work well, all over really, but he shoots very contextually. I feel like showing more aspects of both modernity in his photographs and just showing more context instead of just isolated structures. And I'm trying to do more of that, like show more context to communities or context to places and not being so focused on decay aesthetics and not being so allergic to modern vehicles or things like that. It's just kind of broadening my horizons, and I would like to do like environmental portraiture. I've thought about projects about like agriculture, because agriculture is a huge part of where we live and what people do. I've got ideas floating around in my brain all the time about different things. Even just traditional landscape photos of fields and things. And certain things will catch my eye now and then, and I try to chase those ideas when they happen, because I feel like if your gut's telling you it's a photograph, then you should probably stop and take a photograph. So I'll continue to pursue this kind of subject matter, but I'm trying to widen my scope, I guess, of what the work could look like in the future. So it's a long-winded answer, but that's the answer.
So I'm curious, or if you could talk a little bit about your process of like, do you just always have a camera with you, or do you specifically plan to travel someplace to take your photos? Like how do you decide to take your photos?
That's a good question. No, I do not always travel with a camera, just because my camera is expensive and I don't want something to happen to it. It's precious. Don't want anything to happen. As far as planning, I vaguely plan, like I'm busy this weekend, but like if I was gonna go like last weekend, or I guess it's 2 weekends ago now, I went out to like I knew I wanted to go somewhere to take photos, and I thought, well, where should I go? Where haven't I been in a while? That's usually the first question I ask, because I don't always go super far away, but like 2 hours in one direction is basically my kind of hard limit for a day trip. So I think, well, if I haven't been to Florence in a while, I want to go check out Florence, Minnesota. So I'll drive down by Marshall and I'll kind of take different routes or roads I haven't taken in the past, or change up how I come into town. It's very interesting, because like you usually come into a town on the same road from the same direction, and you come in a different way, and you might see something you hadn't seen before, or see something in a different light, and that'll change how you think about it. But I'll come up with, 3 or 4 towns I want to visit, depending, and I try to hit them all, and then I'll stop somewhere for lunch and drive home. That's usually what I do. If I plan a longer trip that I'm staying somewhere, like if I go to North Dakota or something, I usually am a little bit more rigorous about planning those out, and I'm trying not to be so much, because I think the spontaneity helps my process a lot. But then I also have this like little demon inside of me that's always saying, you have to do as much as you have to be as productive as possible. You have to use every second of every minute to its greatest efficiency, or you're gonna miss out. It's like FOMO for photographs. It's like you're gonna miss the thing, or you're gonna not see the elevator that's gonna get demolished tomorrow. It's like, well, you can't have to give it up and say, you're not gonna see everything. You're not gonna get it all on a photo, and go to that town the next trip or whatever. So I try to be loose when I can, but sometimes I get overtaken by I have to do as much as humanly possible on a trip. That's more so if I'm going and staying somewhere, because now I'm invested. I have to pay money to stay at a hotel. I'm paying money to, so. But if it's a day trip, I just kind of wing it, YOLO. So.
Do you typically, once you get to the small towns, and I realize they're pretty small, but do you get out and walk around, or do you just drive the streets typically?
It depends. A lot of times I gravitate towards downtowns. I will usually find a place to park in their downtown and walk around. If it's a super small town, then I definitely walk. But if it's a big town, like over 1,000 people, like if it's like a Dawson or a Madison, Minnesota, I'll drive, just because they have a lot more streets, and and in winter too. I mean, like last year I was taking pictures in a town called Odessa, Minnesota, and I got out of my car and I took one step and slipped on the ice, and that hurt for about a week. And so wintertime, I try to be a little more careful because, and it's, you know, little towns like that, they don't have budgets for plowing and all this, so it's kind of sketchy at times. It's, yeah, but most of the time I try to walk around when I can, especially if the weather's good, because it's just, and I think you're a little less intimidating if you're walking around with a camera than if you're driving around, like slow
Yeah.
looking, you know. I always feel like I'm a voyeur sometimes, but I think most people are whatever. They don't care, I guess, but yeah.
I think you told a story during your in-person reception at the gallery about that Robin's Corner, Robin Camp.
Oh, yeah.
Do you have any other stories like that or want to share that one?
I can share that one, sure. And it's funny because Robin on the call and I did a print swap, and he's got a print of that that building for obvious reasons. But that building was no, you see, it's a good thing I'm on the computer because I can Google stuff. Stand by.
Me too, I can share photos like slides from the video too, if you want me to pull up a photo at any time.
Sure.
Be cool if
It was
one of
a
you
it was
pull up that
a
photo.
it was a lodge for a fraternal society. I forget the name of the fraternal organization, but it was used up until the 70s or 80s, I believe, as their lodge building, and it's just been empty since then. And it currently is the only building that exists in Robin, Minnesota, which is essentially an intersection on the North Dakota border. It's kind of a unique place too, and that photo was a good day for pictures because it looks, the photo itself looks like it's in fog, but it's actually smoke because that particular year was a bad wildfire year, and it's, you know, way up by the Canada border, so a lot of thick smoke. But yeah, it's a cool place, and that's another thing I really enjoy about being on the field with places like this is that it's very ethereal at times. You feel like you're almost an alien in an alien land because there's just nothing around. It's desolate, but it's comforting to me. Like I enjoy solitude generally, and that's why I enjoy being in these places because they kind of make you realize that you're a small person in a big world kind of thing. So yeah, MWA it says on there. Something Woodcutter Association, I want to say is the name of it.
Oh, you know,
So-
it's probably the Modern Woodman
Yeah, there you go.
Association.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there you go. So
And I think
Yeah, and
that's
then-
Modern Woodman of America, not
yeah,
association.
I think so.
Okay,
Yeah, I
sure.
think you're right.
Mhm.
Yeah, Davenport's baseball stadium is the Modern Woodman Stadium or whatever they call it.
Sure. But as far as other stories, I don't have any. I know a little bit about the Renville County Church, the print that you bought, Nicole. It was a Presbyterian church that there actually used to be a town site there called Churchill, Minnesota. It's north of Hector in Renville County. Somebody bought the building pretty recently, within the past year or two, and now I believe is actually trying to fix it up somewhat. Although I don't know how they will, because the basement is got about 4 or 5 feet of water in it. I'm honestly surprised that the building is still standing because it's like it's a poured, you know, concrete foundation. So I want to say that the building is, I don't know the exact age. I know it was built in the late 1800s, and the last service there was in the 50s or 60s. So it hasn't been used since then. No cemetery or anything like that. But I'm glad I got that photo when I did because, and again, that particular photo was taken on a day when I just was sitting in my living room and I'm like, I'm gonna go get the camera and go out and take photos. And I've photographed this church before, but this particular day on this particular light, it was just perfect. So that's the one I decided to put in the show. And if I do put want to put this photo out, this is the one I always pick because it's just nice.
Do you print your own work, Justin?
I do not. I outsource it to
You do.
White House and the cities.
Oh, sure.
I would like to get into that someday, but the problem with printing yourself is ink is extremely expensive, and unless you're printing at kind of a higher clip, it can be more cost investment than it's worth.
Yep.
But and it's a whole other hobby kind of unto itself, printing, like to dial in your printer and get it to print the colors properly or the tones in the case of black and white properly and all these different things. But I know that if I order a print from White House, it's going to be exactly what I want, and I don't really have to tweak anything too much.
Yeah, they're not going to change it after you get it the way you want it.
Right,
Yes.
right. There's also a guy in Minneapolis that I use occasionally. So, but yeah, it's outsourced for now.
Have you found any people in your adventures that are working towards preserving some of these buildings?
Sometimes yes. It's interesting because it's a very, I don't know what the term is, wide divide between people who think that these places are terrible eyesores and they need to be torn down immediately so we can put up a Lester shed. And then there's people who think, God, this is so beautiful. Why can't, we can't preserve it? And the biggest, I mean, it's obviously the biggest problem is money, right? These towns have no money and no gumption from their community to save some of these places. Sometimes they do. But I feel like it's rare. As an example, and I was telling Nicole about this when I had my in-person reception, there were some buildings in the town of Jasper, Minnesota. Jasper is in southwestern Minnesota, and I don't know how familiar you are with the geography, but it's near Pipestone, Minnesota, which is where Pipestone is mined. Pipestone National Monument is there. And there's a type of rock called Sioux quartzite that runs in that area, and it goes into the Dakotas, and it's the only place I believe in the world where it can be found. Maybe it can be found in other, I don't think so. I think it's only in the United States in this particular area. And it's also the second hardest material that exists. The only thing that's harder than Sioux quartzite is a diamond. And a lot of the buildings in Jasper, in downtown Jasper, had facades made out of this material, Sioux quartzite. And there's a group on Facebook, Abandoned Minnesota, and some guy posted pictures of a giant backhoe knocking these buildings over. And of course, I had shot them a couple years ago. I was staying down there, and I was like, and I was using film I hadn't used before, and my camera, my Rolly, was having focus plane issues. So of course, none of the shots were in focus. I'm like, I'll go back to Laverne someday, and I'll take those pictures a different year. Well, now I can't because those buildings are gone. And a lady was commenting that she did have a nonprofit that was trying to save these buildings, but then there was this big conspiracy about the city council was in cahoots with this other guy, and they wanted to blow it all up and, as Joni Mitchell would say, pave paradise and put up a parking lot. So stuff like that I think is kind of common too. Like just people who want stuff gone, just make it gone. But again, a building like that that's facaded in Sioux quartzite, that's a one-of-a-kind building in America. And to lose that is, in my opinion, a tragedy because it's part of our history and that stuff is, yeah. So important to save our history. And that's one thing I really like about Hutchinson, as I'm wearing my Hutchinson Brothers t-shirt. We make a lot of efforts in this town to save our living history and save buildings, and some people are against it, but I mean, Historic Hutch has raised tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars to save buildings and restore buildings, and it's important. So I'm just glad that our community has that thriving philanthropy to make that kind of stuff happen and save those things. So
Well, your work certainly is, as you talk about in your artist statement, you know, it's a narrative about rural America,
Mhm.
and it really does make you think. So I sincerely appreciate the opportunity to show it in our little small town. And
Likewise,
people
Marshall's not a small
reflect on
town.
that.
Marshall's a big city, man. Don't kid yourself.
Uh, Oh, yes. For those of you joining us, in all of 18 counties that we serve, 18 counties, I mean, it's big landmass. The biggest town that we serve is like, oh, it's Wilmer, and
Wilmer,
it's
20,000.
23,000 people. That's the biggest city that we
Yeah.
serve. So we are everything from like 7 people that we serve in one community to 23,000. That's our range.
Hmm. Well, they're very lucky to have such a nice organization, I think. I've always been amazed at how much for the arts that Minnesota does compared to a lot of other states.
Yep. Minnesota, just a little bit of crowing about our state. Minnesota is second only to New York in arts funding.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yep. And there's probably some qualification in there. I probably should have said second to New York, and it's a certain kind of arts funding, like state funding, state funded things, but there's also lots of benevolent foundations that are funding the arts as well. So we are happy to have our gallery space for visual artists. We try to also, during most of our in-person receptions, offer music or poetry reading or some other art form that complements the show that's the visual art show. So, yeah.
Very nice.
Anybody else have questions for Justin?
I'm a little bit curious, Justin, if you like how you organize everything that you're shooting, you know, like you said that you
Want
places again, you know, like I would be curious.
me to
Maybe-
share my screen and show you? It's terrible.
Yeah, I mean, I'm
Um,
just curious if you have a way of organizing, you know, that you have shot this one certain place on like 5 different dates or whatever. Like, can you check? Can you look at them all and see how they change?
The
Period.
answer to your question is no, I cannot. However, I am being more diligent about that because I'm finding that my memory is not as good. Some buildings, like all those photos in the show, I could tell you exactly where they are. I could drive you to all of those locations right now, no problem.
Mhm.
But that's also because I've been working with them extensively. But it's funny because now that I'm back on social media, I'm trying to find stuff to just post to the groups I'm part of or to my Instagram, and going back in the archives to find shots. And it's good to do because you go back and you look at photos again that you haven't looked at in years, and you probably wrote them off before or thought they were terrible, and you look at it again and you're like, man, that's actually kind of cool. And you touch it up and you play with it a little bit, and you think, yeah, that's something I want to put out there. But you can't remember where you shot it. Like I'm pretty sure that's over, you know. It's funny because this happened lately. I kept thinking it was some town that's in like western Minnesota, extreme western Minnesota. Well, it's Cleveland, which is by Mankato, which is totally not anywhere near western Minnesota. So like now what I've been doing is I use Adobe Lightroom for all my photo editing, even the film. Like I scan the film into the computer, edit TIFF files in Lightroom. I geotag everything now. I don't necessarily geotag like the specific coordinates of where it was. Like if I knew these were all shot in Marshall, I would just dump them all and say they were in Marshall. I'm not going to put, you know, it was at this intersection or wherever I exactly was. But I do that, especially if I'm going long distance, like North Dakota. There's little tiny towns everywhere, and I can't keep it all straight. You know, I visit 10 towns in a day. So to try to keep it all straight now, I have been geotagging stuff, but as it exists just in Lightroom, it's just by date. It's just sorted by date.
Mhm.
Like if I pull my SD card out of my camera, put it in my computer, it just gets put into a folder of the date that it was taken and the time. But I can look at photos in context in the folders and see, oh, I know where that is, so I can kind of work backwards to see where stuff was at. But as the photo library gets larger and larger, it gets crazy. So yeah, I use the geotagging feature in Lightroom to do that. These are good questions. I enjoy talking about this stuff, so thank you.
I mean, I think in the future it would be a fascinating show in like 20 years to find, if you had visited
Right.
places once to put all of those together to see how they change would be really cool.
It would be, and some of these towns, I mean, who knows if they're even gonna exist? It's sad to say, but I mean, a lot of places there's not a lot going on. So like I was just in again, Lac Pearl County, Roseau, Minnesota, Roseau, is that right? Or no, sorry, not Roseau. Nassau is the name of the town. And like their downtown is just like crumbling apart, and supposedly the bar downtown is open, and I don't know how, because it's like it's rough. It looks rough, man. But people on Facebook were saying, yeah, it's still open. So, but yeah, it'd be interesting to see what pans out. Oh, my cat's biting me. It's fun.
What's your dream exhibit for this series or for an expanded series of this rural narrative?
My dream exhibit, like where?
Yeah, like
San
where?
Francisco
or-
MoMA, obviously.
Okay,
No,
Yeah.
I don't know. My dream, truly my dream was to get an exhibit anywhere. Hutch, it would be nice to exhibit in Hutch, but I'm on the board for them, so it's a conflict kind of, so we're not doing that right now. But I mean, I think it would be cool to do shows in the metro or larger galleries, more galleries that have a little more clout in our state. Like what's the one in Fergus? I can't remember the name. You know what I'm talking about though, I think.
the Cadets
Yes,
Gallery.
Cadets Gallery, yeah. Or even like, Minneapolis Institute of Arts or something like that. I mean, Lisa Berg just had a show there. So
I could,
Yeah.
I could definitely see you partnering with an organization, like a
something I've thought about
statewide
too.
or a national organization that's talking about either housing or
right?
rural America, or the downtrend, the downturn of rural America. I definitely could see your work fitting into that.
I
Yeah,
did
so
apply for
go for
an
it.
artist in residence program in Kansas, but I did not receive the invite, so
Oh.
a little bummed about that, but
Well, sometimes people have to apply for grants 12 times before they get it. So keep trying.
what I plan to do.
Well, we sure have enjoyed chatting with you and then appreciate all of your immense talent and your vision for how you see the world. And so thanks for sharing that. And thanks for spending time being here with us, tolerating your cat.
Yeah,
those good things.
he's currently
And-
trying to like bite my feet and do all kinds of crap. I guess it must be time to eat
And,
again.
and
so.
thanks to all the rest of you for joining us as well.
It's
If
a pleasure.
Great. If I'm cutting anybody off, please go ahead and jump in. Now's your time.
No, I just appreciate you putting this on the internet so we can see the work, and it'd be a bit of a trip for me to get up there. I probably will be up in that area sometime this year, but It would have been a trip, but yeah, it's nice when people have shows and put it on the internet so other people can see it. I think that's great. It was well done. Thank you.
And just for knowledge, I'll put this video that we shared, it'll go on YouTube, so it can
good.
be shared, or, it'll stay there for a while. And then this video tonight eventually will also go there so people can hear a little bit more about Justin's process and all of that stuff. So both the videos will be on our website and Facebook, and YouTube at some point. This one will go up tonight or tomorrow. And then the other one will do captioning. It'll take a little longer, but probably within a week.
Cool. No, that's great. I wish more places would do that.
Well, we appreciate all of you. Keep shooting, keep seeing the world as you do. So thanks. Signing off.
All right.
Great.
Thank you. Take care.
Take care.
Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Justin.
See ya.